are times when it feels like that God is so close to us and everything's just going perfectly well. And we're content. And we look around and we're just praising God because our life is going good. Then there's times when it seems like there's just a dark cloud hanging over us. And we don't understand. It's hard to see. Stuff's going wrong and we don't understand why. But at both of those times throughout our life, we can just bow our knee. We don't even have to say the words. He hears our heart and He answers our prayers. And even for those of us that have reached a point in our lives where it's kind of hard to even bow the knee, that's not even what it's about. It's about trusting Him completely with whatever circumstance we face. And if we look back at all those times in our lives before, He brought us through all those dark times in the past, and He'll do it again.
On our journey, following the Lord, where God illumines every step we take. There are times when circumstances make perfect sense to us as we try to understand each move He made. But when the grows dim and our questions have no answers, turn to Him. Trust the heart of your Father when the answer goes beyond what you can see. Hold
Well done on all the music this morning. Very good. We are looking at Proverbs chapter 5, and we're going to pretty much cover the whole chapter, but I want us to read verses 15 through 23 together. This is the seventh teaching in the book of Proverbs. This is the first section of Proverbs, chapters 1 through 9. Make up the first section, and 10 through chapter 22, verse 16 is the next section. But seventh teaching here in the book, and the teaching has to do with marriage and faithfulness. And a big part of the teaching in this chapter is a warning against committing adultery. Don't fall for that temptation. It's attractive, yes, or it would not be a temptation, but it's also deadly. Verses 3 through 5. For the lips of a loose woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps follow the path to Sheol. Don't fall for this temptation. Don't run around on our husband or wife. Don't have an affair. Continuing on causes lots of problems, does a lot of harm. It hurts our reputation, going on with what's brought out here by the sages. Hurts us financially, hurts us health-wise. In the end, we are full of guilt and regret. Verses 8 through 12. Keep your way far from her, and do not go near the door of her house, or you will give your honor to others and your years to the merciless. And strangers will take their fill of your wealth, and your labors will go to the house of an alien. And in the end of your life, you will groan when your flesh and body are consumed. And you say, oh, how I hated discipline, and my heart despised reproof. So a big part of it is a warning against committing adultery. Don't do it. Don't have an affair. Resist that temptation. Also part of the teaching is a praise of marriage and faithfulness. And that's what I want us to focus on this morning. Verse 15 through 23. Drink water from your own cistern, flowing water from your own well. These are metaphors for remain faithful. Should your springs be scattered abroad, streams of water in the streets, let them be for yourself alone, and not for the sharing with strangers. Let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, a graceful dove. May her breasts satisfy you at all times. May you be intoxicated always by her love. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, by another woman, and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? For human ways are under the eyes of the Lord, and he examines all their paths. The iniquities of the wicked ensnare them, and they are caught in the toils of their sin. They die for lack of discipline, and because of their great folly, they are lost. Again, verse 18, let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, a graceful dove. May her breasts satisfy you at all times. May you be intoxicated always by her love. For human ways are under the eyes of the Lord, and he examines all their paths. In other words, remember our wife, our husband, how we fell in love with him, her, and got married. Remember how we stood in front of God and friends and family and promised each other that we would love and care for each other till death do us part. Remember that. Appreciate your husband and wife and their care and love over the years. When we are married, we have someone that we can love like no other. And we have someone who will love us in return like no other. Appreciate that. Enjoy our wife and our wife or husband. Have fun with him or her. Be frisky. God approves that, encourages that kind of thing. God encourages husbands and wives to enjoy each other intimately. And remember, God watches us, watches over us, watches out for us. This past Wednesday, we looked at how God created marriage. Genesis 2, verses 18 through 25. In prayer meeting, we looked at how God created marriage. God had created the man and had created the Garden of Eden, put the man in the garden to take care of it, to keep it and till it. Didn't take very long for God to notice that the man was lonely and that it was not good for the man to be alone. So God created the woman to be with the man, to be a helper, partner, companion, go through this life together, to share the joys and the trials together through life. When God presented the woman to the man, there was immediate attraction, chemistry, love at first sight, you might say. And they got married. And they became one flesh and were naked around each other and not ashamed. Marriage is a wonderful thing. Marriage is God created, God approved, God encouraged, God blessed. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. May you always be intoxicated by her love. God watches us, watches over us, watches out for us. Jesus thought highly of marriage and encouraged it and blessed it. The Pharisees came to Jesus one time and asked him about divorce. They didn't care too much about his response. They were just trying to test him, trying to get him to say something that would make him look bad in front of the crowds. So they came to him and they asked, is it all right to get divorced? And Jesus said, what did Moses say? And they said, well, Moses said it's all right to get divorced, just make sure it's legal. Fill out all the paperwork. And Jesus said, Moses said it's okay to get divorced because you're all hard-hearted. That was not God's intent for marriage. In the beginning, God created them male and female. That's why men and women leave their parents and get married and become one flesh. The two become one flesh. What God has joined together, let no one separate. Marriage is a wonderful thing. God has created it. He approves it. He encourages it. He blesses it. Rejoice in the life of your youth. May you always be intoxicated by her love. God watches us, watches over us, watches out for us. time that I saw Patty. We were 15 years old. Her family had just moved to Nicholasville, Kentucky. And one Sunday morning, she and her sister showed up for Sunday school. I came in late, as was usually the case. The senior high department of Sunday school was already in their opening assembly, and everyone was sitting in a chair around the room. I sat down and scanned the room to see who was there, and I saw Patty. And I thought, who's the new girl? Nice. She's looking foxy. That's why we talked back then, foxy. Little did I know, and little did she know, that 11 years later, we'd get married. 9 years after that first meeting, we started dating. On one of our dates, it was a day date, and the plan was I was going to drop Patty off at her house and then go and do something else. Well, Patty did not want me to leave, and so we got there at her house, and she said, "Don't run off." And she got out of the car. She said, "Let me see if I got the keys," because the parents weren't there. So I stepped out of the car, and I was on this side of the car, she was on that side of the car. And I looked around, and then I noticed out of the corner of my eye, she had opened her purse, and I saw her take the keys out and throw them over her shoulder into the yard. And she goes, "I can't find the keys here. I must have left them in the house. You can't leave me outside here alone." I said, "But you just threw the keys in the yard." I saw it, and you didn't see anything. On our wedding day, Patty was so full of vim and vigor, excitement, enthusiasm, energy, life, and light. We did not know what we were doing. We did not know where we were going. We only knew what we wanted to do and go together. We took our honeymoon in the Bahamas, and that was great. I'd never seen water like that before. You look down in the water and it's transparent, look out over the water and it is vibrant, bright blue. And the Bahamas were great. But I really liked the 2 days that we had to kill before we went to the Bahamas. We got married on Saturday, and our plane didn't leave till Monday. And so we spent 2 nights in Florence, Kentucky, which is where the Cincinnati airport is, and thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. The first time we were husband and wife, first time we were on our own, free as birds, and no pressure whatsoever on us. That would come later. But for those 2 days, we just walked around the mall, we went to the movie, we went out to eat, whatever we wanted to do. And thoroughly had a casual, enjoying 2 days. Our life at the seminary, basically this. In the morning, Patty and I would get up, she would go to work, and I would go to class. Didn't always make that 8 o'clock class. Greek at 8 o'clock in the morning is not that attractive. At the end of the day, Patty would come home from work, would come home exhausted from work, and I would come home exhausted from playing basketball. I mean, studying in the library. We spent a lot of evenings at the seminary like this. Patty would be in the living room by herself watching TV, and I'd be in the back room by myself studying for a test or writing a paper, wishing like crazy I was in there with her. We got our first church in Shoals, Indiana, and for 2.5 years there at the seminary, every weekend, usually Saturday, we would load up the car and travel an hour and a half to the church. Saturday night, we'd spend the night in the church. They had made a Sunday school room to a bedroom, and so we'd spend the night in the church, get up real early Sunday morning, shower in the men's room, get ready, and there they made a little shower, eat a little something out of the kitchen there in the church, and then open up the church for Sunday school worship. Afterwards, we usually went out to eat with someone from the church. It's often Ella and Joyce and Evans. Come back to church, spend the afternoon there, and get ready for the evening worship service. Then we would leave after the service and go back to Louisville. On the way home, we would stop off at a fast food restaurant, get something to eat, and eat it in the car as we drove home. One time, we went to the Dairy Queen, which we often did, but we went to the drive-thru and got behind this woman who took forever to order. I mean, she must have had 10 orders and changed it a bunch of times, and then when it was read back to her, it was wrong, and she had to correct that. And I mean, it took forever for her to order. And then when she finally got her food, she didn't leave. She stayed right there in front of the drive-thru window and started looking in the bags. And I looked over at Patty and I said, "Look at this. When you look at this, she's not ever going to leave." And I stuck my head out the window and I said, "Move on." And she stuck her head out her window and said, "What'd you say, Patty?"
She said, "I gotta check my food, don't I?"
Gotta check my food, don't I? And that's correct. I said, we'll do it out of the way. Good times. Then we moved to Aiken and had Joseph. He came 10 weeks early, 2 pounds, 2 ounces, and he had to stay in the hospital, the neonatal unit, for a month and a half, so he would develop more and put on more weight. That meant that every day we would drive to the Augusta Hospital and visit with him for an hour or two and come back home. The trip was about like going from here to the hospital in Fayetteville at that time. That was a weekend, a month and a half we did that. And then when he came home, he had to be on a monitor. It had this elastic strap that had leads on it that kept track of his heart, his breathing, and such. And then if something went wrong, alarms would go off. And he was on that for 6 months. And we were so ignorant about things that we did not freak out over that. When I think back on it, I get freaked out thinking about all we had to do and go through. We just did. But we got him raised. A lot of help from God, but we did it. And now we're here. When we first moved into the parsonage, we did not have enough stuff to fill all the rooms. Now, 10 years later, we don't have enough room for all the stuff that we've accumulated. But when I think back on me and Patty's life together, all the things that we've done, all the things that we've seen, all the things that we've been through, all the places we've visited, I can't imagine being with anyone else. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. May you always be intoxicated by her love. God watches you God watches us. God watches over us. God watches